reaching out to the wedding community a little bit more regularly. And so this is, of course, I'm going to present any information that we have that might be of interest to you, that we think might be of interest to you. But I would really like to open up the dialogue too and find out the issues that you're dealing with and see how the office might be able to help with those. So the bulk of the meeting, or at least the most important part of the meeting, will be at the end where I get to talk to you and you guys get to talk to me and tell me what's happening in your world and how I might make it better. So I think we have about 30 more seconds, so join, talk to each other, and we'll wait for the last people to filter in, and then we'll get started. Okay.
So when you get to that point, maybe just let them know if there's anyone that wants it that didn't get a chance to sign in, then we'll get them a clipboard and hand them out to them.
Yeah, Mike, so.
Yeah.
Get my staff down and introduce you guys. Are we clear out there? Are they in?
Yeah, there's nobody up there right now.
Okay. Well, again, thank you. I am Lynn Goya, the Clark County Clerk, for any of you that haven't met me before. And I welcome you today. I'd like to introduce you to a few of my staff. The Assistant County Manager, Jim Pierce. You guys probably know most of these people. Paula Cook.
You're promoting me.
I am.
I'm your assistant clerk.
What did I
County
say?
Manager.
Oh, sorry, I didn't even hear it. Paula Cook, she's a supervisor in the Marriage Bureau. Most of you guys that file your certificates know Ashley. And then Carl is the Marriage Bureau Manager. So if you have any questions afterwards, or if you want to talk to anybody, just let us know. So we'll get started. Welcome, obviously. Make sure I do know how to do this. Apparently not. It worked when we checked it. What am I doing wrong? Oh, that's what it is. I didn't turn the switch on. I forgot. They told me. Okay, welcome. There you go. I just wanted to go over some notes with you guys, make sure that you're aware of what's happening. We try to send out notices to the chapels and the officiants when anything is coming up. If you are not getting something, that probably means you're not on our list, so make sure that you tell somebody from my staff that you're not on the list. If you've changed your address or anything like that, again, make sure you tell staff so that we can get you on our list. So obviously, most people that are here must be on our list, or you wouldn't have known about it. But when you're talking to other officiants or other chapel owners, make sure that they do know that we do try to send out information when it is merited or when we think that you would benefit from it. And so one of the first things that we wanted to talk about, we're going to talk about the road closure, some LVCVA research, some updates on officiant licensings that I think you might be interested in. The legislative session is coming up, so we're working on any legislative changes that we want to put forward. And then the end, I'd like a chapel discussion. I have some items that I'm getting. Louder? Let me see how you turn it louder. No, it's not on this. It's on. Okay. Can we have a request to turn up the mic a little bit, or maybe I'll just try to talk a little louder. Okay. So then legislative issues, and then some of the issues that are coming to my office regarding the chapels or officiants, and we'll talk about that and hopefully get some feedback from you guys on potential solutions so that we can move forward and how I can help you move forward and make your businesses more productive and positive and prosperous. So one of the things that we're trying to do is set up biannual meetings. I guess that's the next one. We want to set up biannual meetings, so expect a notice in May and in November, and we're going to try to have these meetings regularly. Hopefully, there'll be less big things to talk about and more little things, but again, so that you guys can bring issues to me and say, here's something that I'm dealing with, or here's an idea I have, or how can we make the industry more prosperous, more efficient, have a better outreach, how we can do things to help your business and help the industry, or help my office. So sign up. I have some notifications, some notepads around here that we can send around. You are getting emails, so it says emails or legislative issues. I'd really like you to just sign up if you want updates on legislative issues, or if you potentially want to help with some legislative issues, and I'll tell you what those are later on. Most of you know that the Rock and Roll Marathon is coming up real soon on November 13th. It's from 2:30 to 10, and this year, for some reason, they didn't invite the clerk's office when they were setting the route, and so they set it so that it comes right in front of the Marriage Bureau and the Marriage Commission, and frankly, our parking. So we've reached out to Metro and the Rock and Roll Marathon to make sure that couples that are coming to the Marriage Bureau can be escorted across. If the parking obviously is another issue that will be difficult for couples coming to get their marriage license. So the public parking that's on 3rd, so you come down Bonneville, you turn a left on Bonneville onto 3rd, and the parking is that to the right, so that should be available for your customers and actually for your limousines as well, because that whole area is going to be blocked off that's normally used for limousine service. So does anyone have any questions? We sent a map to you, we sent an update, we tried to make sure that you guys were aware of what the new route is. If your couples are not coming from the chapel, this route tells you on the thing that I sent you in the map, it tells you how to tell them to get in, because a lot of the streets are closed, so they have to use this specific route that's on the map to even get in. So I have to come from the freeway, get off in Charleston, go down Casino Center, look at the map, make sure your couples that are trying to get a marriage license on Sunday after 2 know how to drive in if they're driving, or that your limos know how to drive in so they can get to the parking lot so they can walk. When they get to the crosswalk on Clark and 3rd, there's supposed to be a Metro officer there that will escort them back and forth. So hopefully there won't be too much of a disruption. Nonetheless, if you can encourage them to come before 2, they will have less problems. So especially once the marathon runners are going through there, they'll probably have to wait until there's a break in marathon traffic. So again, I apologize. Hopefully next year they'll include us in the discussion before they get to this point so that they can route us away from the Marriage Bureau entrance. Any questions on that? And again, we sent you a map. Did everybody get a map to show, to print, or to show to your people so everybody knows? Okay, good. Many of you know that we've been working with the LVCVA, that we raised the fee on marriage licenses so we would have a special wedding promotion fund. We just issued a check to the LVCVA, 2 checks, frankly, that total about $600,000. They have been spending the last few months doing research on what the market is and what people are looking for in the market. If you can't see that on there, and I'll put the link on our site as well, but there is a link where you can see the actual report that they came up with. They also presented it to the county commission, so the link is on the county commission chamber. So there's a bunch of details in here about what they think the wedding market is. You're welcome to share in that research. They do think it's obviously millennials and people that have been to Vegas before that we should be targeting. And then they're supposed to come up with a marketing plan that should launch around January, which is a good time frame for us to launch. Any questions about the LVCVA research? So, go ahead. Oh, yes.
How much money have you collected of the additional $17 into the county fund?
$14 goes into special wedding fund. $3 was already allocated to a tech fund so that we can use it to, update our technology so that we're more efficient for you guys. And so we have collected they're getting the whole thing. So we've collected about $600,000, and they're supposed to get it quarterly. So we've issued 2 quarterly checks. We also reached out to the wedding community and started the Wedding Chamber of Commerce so that we can have a more cohesive voice from the wedding industry. This is obviously going to continue forward whether or not you're part of the chamber. I encourage you to be part of the chamber so that the industry itself can start doing things to promote Las Vegas weddings. There's a lot that we can do. There's a lot of really exciting things happening. One of the things is we said that once we got 100 members, we would put the chamber link on the clerk's website. We did that yesterday. We have, I think, 105 members now. We're really excited about that. It's also going to be on the clerk's site so that they will be able to find chapels. People ask us all the time, again, where they should go to get married. Obviously, as the clerk's office, we can't say that. And so we feel like this is an extension of the kiosk and that we have, and a brochure rack that we already have in the chapel. I'm sorry, the brochure rack that we already have in the Marriage Bureau. And so this is another way that we can promote your services. So please consider joining and being part of it and being part of the solution on how we can rebuild the wedding industry. Oh, I'm sorry. So this shows one of the places that we are putting the link to the wedding chamber site. Our numbers, we keep numbers monthly. Well, obviously we keep numbers daily, but we try to aggregate them monthly. If you go to the County Clerk site and then you look at the brown menu on the left, you'll see a stats button. This is the stats page, and so we try to update it at the end or the beginning of each month for the previous month. Last year, because of same-sex marriages, we actually increased about 914, we increased 914 marriage licenses, and then we issued 1,431 marriage certificates, because obviously people that go in December might go into the next year, so those aren't the same number. Unfortunately, this year, we are down right now 1,269 for the year on marriage licenses issued. So we still continue to decline. That's about a 2% decline. It does look like we might break going the downside, we might break 80,000. So we might not even make 80,000 this year. It depends on, obviously, November and December. But hopefully, once we start getting some of the promotions out, we can start rebuilding that number instead of seeing a continued decline. So if this is, again, something that concerns you, make sure that you join us in the chamber so that we can do something about it and try to rebuild the industry. One of the things, and this is probably why most of you are here, one of the things that we've been really dealing with is the officiant licensing process. A few months ago, we sent out a letter to the religious organizations that issue the permission to solemnize marriages that we require by the state law to have before we can accept your officiant request, process it, do the background check, and then issue the certificate to perform marriages, permission to perform marriages that you guys need to perform marriages. What we've found is that we're getting more and more problems with people that go online, they log in to one of those online agencies, it says now you can perform marriages, and they don't do anything beyond that. And it's a real problem because obviously you guys know how important it is for the follow-through. Without that follow-through, there really isn't necessarily a wedding or marriage. And if there's no record of the marriage certificate, if they never file the marriage certificate, then it's almost impossible for us to know that unless the couple calls and says, we looked for our marriage certificate, we couldn't find it, where is it? And then we can backtrack and find, well, the person who married you isn't actually a legal officiant. And so one of the things that we found is we looked at the law, and the people that are issuing the marriage permission to solemnize marriages from the religious organization need to be a religious organization established in the state. They also, is this right? Yeah. They also need to tell us within 30 days if somebody moves or quits or they revoke their license or any of those other issues, so that we have an actual decent list of officiants, that we know who they are and we know that they're done everything they need to do to keep their license appropriate. What's happening is we send a letter out to the religious organizations, not to the officiants, to the religious organizations, saying please comply with the law, give us a list of the officiants that you have authorized so that we know who's up to date, because we have no way of checking whether people are actually still here, whether they died, whether they moved to California. And so it's been a huge process for us to try to determine who are actual officiants. I probably should have done this backwards, so I'll do it next. We are required to send the list of officiants to the Secretary of State's website, and that's where most people go to find out if someone is an officiant. When we looked at the Secretary of State's website, there's over 6,000 wedding officiants listed. 4,500 of those are from Clark County. Does anyone believe we really have 4,500 active officiants in Clark County? So it's been a huge chore for the clerk's office. We are trying to make sure that our database, that our information is good and accurate and legal, that we're complying with the law. And so it's taken us, actually when we moved from the recorder's office to the clerk's office last year to take over the marriage certificate filing, we sent a letter out to every single officiant. We got back over 1,000 returned emails. And we've been trying to track those people down for the last year and a half. It's been a huge effort on our part. We've sent multiple letters. You have to send to multiple addresses. It's cost us over $30,000 and at least one person half-time, full-time, a full half-time person for a year to just try to get this under control. And that's why we have been trying to do something different so that we don't have to have that kind of a chase the rabbit process. So what we determined is we would send to because the law requires it, we would send to the religious organization saying, tell us who your active officiants are. It's the law. Make sure that we know who that is. If you don't comply, if you can't show us that you are a religious organization established in the state, then we will no longer take your affidavit to solemnize marriages because you're not complying with the law. It's pretty loose. We are not determining who is a religious organization by any stretch of the imagination. But they do have to show us that they are established in the state and that they are a religious organization by something, even as much as where are you holding your services? What's your congregation? Give us a mortgage. Anything to show us that you're established in the state and that you are a religious organization. And so those that have complied, those that have complied, we have a list now. It's, again, on our website. So anyone that wants to become officiant can go to the website and choose any of those organizations. How many do we have? 150. About 150 that have complied. And those organizations you can use to, ask for your permission to solemnize marriages so that you can give it to the clerk, and then we can process your application. One of the concerns that people are having is right now, and I think that Universal Life is going to comply by the beginning of the year, but what if your religious organization doesn't comply? You will be grandfathered in. We are not going to take away any officiant license from somebody that has gone through an organization that was being processed at the time. But going forward, if you need to be licensed, then you need to go with an organization that is established in the state and is a religious organization. And when we do that, we're going to work with the Secretary of State's office so that we can more easily create a database that's actually functional and usable, so that if you are an officiant and you're licensed by a real organization, you will be on that officiants list that we upload to the Secretary of State's site. And then if you want to apply for a job at a chapel, you can go to the chapel and say, you can see that I'm a real officiant. If a couple is looking for people, they don't have to wade through 4,000 applicant or officiants that may or may not be legal, and they can find the officiants that are actually functioning. So it's a good tool for you guys to send people and say, yeah, you can see right there that I'm legitimate. And I think that will help all of us create a better system.
Is this going to change anything for the notaries that are authorized to perform marriages?
Again, the notaries will be listed on that site because they already are. And you guys don't have to have that religious organization because you have another process. So it actually won't really impact you at all, except we'll keep better track of those notaries that no longer are licensed and then don't reapply. So what I hope to have by the beginning of the year is an actual good list of all of you that are actually performing marriages and want business. I'm going to go back. Oh, yes. Can we get a mic up there, because we are taping this for people that couldn't come, and if, well, get on the mic though, that helps us get, for the tape, helps everybody understand your question. So just a second. And I should have said that for the first couple questions.
Yes, ma'am. I have a question. The question I am, those of us who are currently licensed, have been licensed with your office since day one, do we have to reapply, or what's going on? Because we've already did our background checks, all our stuff like that. Do we have to do the paperwork all over again, or how's that going to work with us?
No, you will be grandfathered in. So anyone, even if your agency that licensed you is no longer recognized by the clerk's office, you already have been through the process, so that will not impact any existing officiant. But going forward, you would have to find another agency to go forward. Okay, and then what we're trying to redesign the database with the Secretary of State's office, and so this is what we're hoping to put up there. Right now, it's not really useful, even though you are on the Secretary of State's site. There's no way to get a hold of you. Nobody knows how to contact you. So say somebody's looking for an officiant, and I think we have, do we have religious affiliation? I don't think it is up there. Yeah, because maybe somebody's looking for someone that's Jewish, or somebody that's Muslim, or somebody that's Catholic, and I think we'd like to add that, but this is a little bit where I want to get your input as well. What would you like to see? Because they said wait till after the election. Well, the election was yesterday. We're hoping to redesign the website by the beginning of the year. So this is another place where I wouldn't mind having your input. Is this what you would like to see on there? Do you guys want to have personal information on there? How would you like to see the Secretary of State's website so that it would work best for you? Raise your hand if you have a question or comment. Ashley, there's somebody over there too.
Hi, my name's Deborah, and I see on here the business addresses. I imagine that's basically the chapels, but for officiants that travel around, I would maybe suggest that indicate area or region where you work. So when people are looking for officiants, they're really looking for someone who's serving them in an area where they're getting married. And that might be a suggestion, is that instead of it being an address so much, be a regional area, maybe the cities or towns that you serve.
Does everyone agree with that? I think it already does say whether you're licensed by Clark County or Washoe County or those things, but I agree. So is that something that you guys would agree with? Raise your hand if you think that's a good suggestion.
What was the suggestion?
We're looking at this, because we're going to talk with the Secretary of State site and say, here's what we would like to provide you so that we can change the information on the Secretary of State site. And so she suggested that we put in like region or city, town, something like that. So if you're in Boulder City, they know to contact you in Boulder City, or if you're in Laughlin, or if you want all of Clark County or something like that. And this is also designed so that when you go to a chapel, they can look up your information quickly.
Okay. I was just going to say, if as an officiant and a mobile officiant, I would suggest not either having an option for the website versus our address. I put my address on the license, but I don't advertise my address as a mobile officiant.
Raise your hand if you like that idea. If you have any concerns about these ideas, I need to know now. So the website, that's why we wanted at least an email or some, because right now there's no contact information at all.
I like to have I'm a Spanish person, and I do weddings in different languages, French, Italian, Spanish, English. But I have a problem, and most of the people that found me last seems to be like it's very hard to find me, even I have my website. So when they was asking some reference, on when they get the marriage license, it was very hard to find persons like speak my languages, all the translations. Now, I don't know how I can get some help. I mean, we're thinking like maybe there should be some kind of referral, in the office.
What kind of what?
It cannot refer. I mean, to refer. I mean, this.
The office cannot refer you other than.
That's the problem too for us.
So that is why we're reaching out to the wedding chamber, because then we are promoting an organization. So I would encourage you to join the chamber, because that is a way that we can safely say, here's a list of people, officiants, businesses, hairstylists, all those kinds of things. Because the clerk's office, that's why we put the wedding chamber site on the clerk's office, so there was a forum, but we can't promote any particular business.
It's only we need to void, because there is a lot of fakes on the website.
Please talk into the mic. I didn't hear what you just said, actually. I'm not on the.
The reason I'm saying that is not too much that I can do my own business is because on the website there is too many names that they are not, like you saying, they are not the ministers. So that is the problem. So that's what they decide. They prefer to ask somebody, quick. I mean, where exactly are those people, or to point them and.
Well,
check this list
the
or
Secretary
whatever.
of State site will have, once, hopefully by January 1, we will have a list only of active officiants. So that is what we're trying to do. So that would be where the aggregate list of officiants is on the Secretary of State site, because the clerk's office provides that to the Secretary of State. And we're trying to get rid of all of the people that aren't really active or may or may not be living in the state, or for whatever reason they're no longer active. So that's the whole process we've been working on the last year and a half. And it's been a big project, frankly. Other questions or comments?
Yes. Just from what you were saying, and I may be mistaken, but it does sound like you are using the list of officiants on the Secretary of State as more of an advertisement now. I know that there were suggestions of using your email or website, but can't we only have that listing just for searching for active officiants, and then use maybe the chamber website that you mentioned for listing officiants that have services available? Because just what we spoke about just a little bit here, it does sound like this is now gearing towards referrals or listing officiants and their services, or contacting through their website, and I think you might want to keep that separate.
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate, we don't want to be responsible for making sure that all your information is up to date either. That's not the clerk's office responsibility. So I am a little leery about doing too many things, but I would like them to have at least one contact. If you want your website instead of an email, that's something that we might discuss, but I don't want to, again, that's not the clerk's responsibility in this function. This is an NRS mandated function, so we need to make sure that we're staying within the confines of the law and the intent of the law. So I do want to make sure that it's accurate, but don't want it to become some other beast, I guess is what I'm saying. And we will be talking with these will be recommendations when we talk to the Secretary of State's office, because they are part of the legal discussion.
I have a question in regards to the notary. For the church/organization, does that show notary in that spot there?
I think you would put notary in there instead of saying the church.
Okay.
So they would know that.
And also, could we put a spot there for a license number? Your license number, you should not have that or not?
We do enter your license.
Wait, you need to be mic'd.
The license number is entered on the Secretary of State website, but it's not public information.
Yeah, this is what we would like to be visible to anybody, what we're talking about right now. So it's not all the information we collect, but what do you want visible? And I think one form of contact is probably, possibly a phone or an email, but I don't think we want to get into maintaining your communication and outreach. That's not really what this office should be doing. But what we can do is make sure that they know you're legal. That's the main goal of it.
My guess and assumption is that that is the primary use couples would make of the Secretary of State list, just to see if the individual that they have selected or considering is authorized. And
Correct.
not for the purpose of searching for someone.
Well, sometimes we, again, the office is asked, do you have a list of officiants? So then we can send them there and they can do that. And I think potentially, what your religious affiliate, sometimes they are looking for a very specific kind of officiant. And if we can, whatever we can facilitate, I think is legitimate, short of advertising. So it's a kind of a balance that I'm trying to keep without going overboard, but still trying to, keep your best interests in mind.
Yes, I have a question. I've been officiating for 20 years through a church that is no longer around. So when I retired from that church, I redid my paperwork and I have a retired status. But when people look on the listing, it still says that I'm with that church. I'm retired. I just did a wedding a couple weeks ago, so I'm still doing weddings. But if people know that that church is no longer,
Yes, technically you really shouldn't have a license. You need to find another. So what the religious organization or the notary is, it's a sponsoring organization, and I think that's what it was originally intended to be.
well, I am a church on my own. I'm American Indian.
Okay, so you need to file then with, get with Carl. There's a letter, that if you're a church, you need to fill out the form so that you can be listed on our side as an authorized church.
But as an American Indian, we don't have bricks and mortar.
You don't have to.
So,
But this is, I think, so specific. Why don't you talk to tonight's staff after the meeting? Because, there are things that you're going to have to follow through with. Again, we're trying to make sure that the religious organizations are doing their job. We're trying to make sure that we have up-to-date information. And I do have even a little bit more on this whole issue going forward that might address your concern as well. But if you are a religious organization and you are authorizing ministers to submit their paperwork to us, then make sure that you have talked to Carl or Paula and that your organization is giving us the things that they need so that we can authorize them. Because anyone that is not on our list now, it's been 6 months, we've worked directly with a number of organizations. If they're not on our list, we will not accept the paperwork from them. So if you are doing that, you need to make sure that you're on our list, okay? And you can talk to us about how to get on it. Okay, we'll talk about that afterwards. We'll make sure that if you're complying, that you're on the list. Any other questions about this particular? Okay.
For the gentleman who was asking or was mentioning he's Hispanic, perhaps one of the things that should be on there is languages spoken.
That's a good suggestion, and I think what we're trying to do is make it functional. And again, we are going to have to go to the Secretary of State and make sure. And all the counties, just to let you know, all the counties will follow this new format. So it's not just a Clark County decision. So whatever the new format is, we have to get the other counties to also agree. So they have to be gathering this information as well. So it's not just Clark making these decisions on their own. It's kind of a political process that you have to make sure you do all your steps correctly. But I want your support so that I know that I'm doing what you guys want as well. Any other questions? Oh,
Good morning,
okay.
Lynn. Can you tell me what the amount of active officiants were from 2 years ago? Do you know that total? How it's changed?
All we have is what's on the Secretary of State site and on our massive list. We sent out, how many letters did we send out when we did the conversion from the recorder's office? Thousands, yeah. We know that those aren't all good. We got back over thousands. So
But
that's
as
what
of
we're trying to determine.
2 years ago, did you have 4,500 active officiants?
I wasn't here 2 years ago.
Okay.
So
you don't know that information?
I don't. I don't think this database has been cleaned up for a long time. That's my feeling. And so we have, I think, a lot of, dead wood in there that really are not active. I would suspect that, we're under 1,000 by the time we get all this done. And our goal is to have it all done by January, and I appreciate your cooperation in helping us make sure we get the information so we can have a good list.
Hi, Lynn. Wondering if there's going to be something that you're going to put on your website that will suggest or recommend that these folks that are applying for a marriage license, I'm wondering if you're going to be putting something on your website that will suggest or recommend that these folks that are applying for a marriage license be directed or go to the Secretary of State's website to make sure that these people are legit or licensed? Is there something, how are these people going to know to go to the Secretary of State?
I'm not sure we don't already have that. If under the instructions, I would think, we do now have a new list. I don't know why it's doing that. We do have a new list now of the organizations that's with the officiants, how to apply to be an officiant. Now we have a list of organizations that you can check. And so I would assume that that would be something that we put when how do you get married and the. Yeah, we already have a link. I thought we did, but I wasn't positive.
Yeah, I was just commenting on it. I believe there is actually a link instructing the couples to check out the link at the Secretary of State's office to make sure the officiant is legal or active and certified.
Yeah, we try to have as much information that's pertinent as possible without being overwhelming. I don't know if you guys have noticed, we're also trying to do a little bit more graphic instead of the big copy that nobody wants to read anymore, especially millennials. So, we're trying to revise those kinds of things and provide all the information without being overwhelming so that they don't look at anything. And again, we're getting more and more complaints about couples that their license wasn't filed and then it turns out their officiant wasn't legal. So what we're trying to do is make sure that the integrity of weddings in Las Vegas is of the highest caliber, that people know when they come here and think they're getting married, that they're actually getting married, and that the process goes smoothly. So that's why I'm trying to work with you guys to make sure that we can do whatever we can to make sure that if somebody comes and gets married, they are actually married.
Lynn, over here. Question. With a new establishment in town, I have officiants that are retired. They have their retired certificate. You were just mentioning that she would have to get recertified. I know she's in a different situation. But my officiants that are in retired status, you're saying they need to be recertified?
She said her religious organization was also gone.
So is this one?
That's a slight difference.
That church, the organization is a worldwide organization that moved their headquarters to Arizona.
Okay.
I'm still a member of that, but the church itself, man died. But
Well, yeah, and I'm not criticizing anybody, but I'm just trying to follow the law. And it does say that religious organization.
I'm in a retired status, which means that, I wasn't going there anyway. But I haven't stopped being a minister. I'm just a retired minister.
But the papers for retired
I think
status were
you
distributed
personally, let's
from
talk-
the county.
I have that. I have the retired status.
Do you have
Is
a,
that not grandfathered in like the other things that you're talking about?
So as we go through and we clean up the lists for a lot of them, the retired status ones are one of the ones that we haven't really started to tackle yet. Our forms have changed for officiants licensing and how you indicate that you're retired and the instructions in the affidavit of authority. So I encourage you that we need to talk separate outside of this meeting because everyone's situation for being retired is a little bit different.
We had to fight for that retirement status.
Right. It is in the statutes. You can be retired and hold hold your officiant, your certificate of permission, but we need to look at your individual situation, because as the organizations themselves go away, if you're no longer authorized through that organization, it's really the responsibility of the organization to submit to our office an affidavit of removal of authority, saying that this person's no longer authorized through that organization.
But I am.
Okay,
That's why I'm
we'll talk to you
encouraging
separately.
We'll talk separate offline
Yeah.
about your situation and your other one too.
Obviously,
Yeah.
she's not the only one.
Right, there's a lot of them. I do have one question. How many of you in here are notaries that are officiants?
Raise your
Okay.
hand high so we can see.
So there's
Oh, that's more than I.
Can you hear me now? All right, so for those of you that are notaries and officiants, I want to make sure, because we're going to be going through this process too, and it will probably be coming from Paul or someone else from our office. We do have a clerk officiants shared email, so you might see communications from that. But with the notaries, when you first apply for your certificate of permission, as a notary, that certificate of permission expires on your notary appointment date. And I don't know if you guys as notaries know that, because when the certificates of permission were issued prior to 6 months ago, once we changed them, there wasn't an expiration date on the certificate of permission. So your certificate of permission expiration date is your notary appointment date. If you reapply to become a notary through the state again, you have 90 days to reapply to our office once you become an active notary again. You do have to reapply for a new certificate of permission. You'll be given a new certificate of permission number, but if it's within those 90 days, there's no fee for you to reapply. After 90 days, you will have to go through the full application process again as a notary. So I just want to make sure that you understand that for those of you that are notaries. And when we're going through and cleaning up this database, as we find notaries who the original notary expiration date, appointment expiration date, has been met or surpassed, and we don't have new paperwork, we'll be reaching out to you to let you know that. So just keep that in mind, because there is a difference.
Does that apply as long as our notary doesn't expire? I mean, if we have a continuation date, we still have to reapply?
So as a notary, when you first become a notary, it's for 4 years.
Right.
And so if you come and apply on, say, day 1 to get a certificate of permission, your certificate of permission is good for those 4 years.
Okay, so
Now-
when we get our renewal, then we have to renew with you also?
That's correct.
Okay.
You'll get a new certificate of permission number, and again, a new expiration date for that one.
Any other questions about notaries specifically? I need you the microphone.
Oh, just a simple question. Because my notary is about to expire, do I need to go the same process, go those meetings again, and everything else?
They changed the laws on the notaries during the last legislative session, so you do have training. Yeah, you can do it online, but you do have to go through new training.
Oh, the training again.
Yes.
But you're an officiant as a notary?
Yeah, I'm separate.
I understand, but when you applied to get your certificate of permission, it was as a notary?
Yes.
Okay, so when your notary appointment expires, you have 90 days, you reapply with the state as a notary. If you're reappointed as a notary, you have 90 days, 3 months, to come to our office and reapply for a new certificate of permission number under that new notary appointment. Okay? Then there'll be no fee. Otherwise, there'll be a fee to reapply.
Okay, more? Thank you. This is exactly the kind of discussion we were hoping to have. Okay, so there are some legislative issues coming up. I think, as you're aware, I'm most trying to clean up the whole efficient process so that it makes sense for us and that we can keep an up-to-date list. You guys asked for us to put in vow renewals, and so we are asking to have the ability to offer a vow renewal certificate, a recommitment certificate from the clerk's office. They can get an official certificate printed out after you guys marry them so that they can do that. There's no legal requirement. It will have no legal status at all. So all it is an additional thing for you guys to be able to offer to your clients. and we would process it. It would cost the same as they do for a marriage license, so that we can take the cost. Again, $25 of that goes to aid to domestic violence. We would still be doing aid to domestic violence contributions. All the same contributions for the marriage license would be for the marriage certificate, the marriage recommitment ceremony. And we would be doing that, again, as a courtesy to you, because that was what you asked us for a couple months ago. Again, we really are very, very concerned about unlicensed officiants trying to marry people. And one of the problems is that it is currently a misdemeanor, but if you look at the law, if somebody thinks the person is real and they marry them, then the law says that if they go home and have sex under the understanding that they just got married, then they're legally married. But that doesn't help us, because when they ask for the certificate to prove it for anyone else, we don't have the certificate unless they filed, and a lot of them are not filing. So how we get this information is somebody calls, where's my marriage certificate? I don't know, we don't have it, the officiant didn't file it. Well, who was your officiant? We look up the officiant, they're not in there. So they're not real. And they're going online and seeing these online agencies, and they do this 5-minute or 2-minute thing where they put in their name, and now they think that they're able to marry people, and yet they don't know what they're doing, and so they don't follow through on the process so that it's actually legitimate. So one of the things I've been talking to my senator about is this issue, and how can we ensure that there's some kind of a penalty if somebody does this, so that we have some enforcement. And what they recommended was that it move from a misdemeanor to a gross misdemeanor, and that there's a $500 fine for people that are not licensed and don't follow the law, but marry people anyway. So that's one of the things that we're asking for. Do you have any feedback on that? Is this something that you guys would support, or is this something that you think is a problem? I was saying 100, and they said, no, that wouldn't deter anybody, so 500. So yeah, we can say $1,000. I don't know, we can request $1,000 if you think that would.
It's a numbers game when it comes to this, and $500 seems to be pretty nominal. I would definitely recommend that be 1,000 or more, actually. Just my opinion.
Is that something that you guys would recommend? I mean, I said 100. What? So
You've got to really
couldn't hear
detour
you.
these people.
We have 2 mics. So your recommendation would be 500 is not enough, that we should ask for a $1,000 penalty? And I'm working with the DA and my legislature, so again, these are recommendations, but if I know that this is coming from the industry, I can say that this is what the industry is recommending.
$500 for the first offense, $1,000 for the second, and third, and fourth, and fifth. So there would be a progressive penalty for each offense. So it's not just $500 and you're good for the whole year. It's the first one is $500 and a progressive from there.
Well, the DA has to follow this, and I didn't ask him. He was the one that recommended go from a misdemeanor to a gross misdemeanor. I mean, because this actually, if you think about it, and you guys know this, this is the most important legal document you'll sign in your life. It has huge financial repercussions. It has huge legal repercussions. And if you're getting married and you find out it's not legal, you are in great jeopardy. And often we get people that come 30 years later, we don't have a marriage certificate, where is it? And they find out that that was never filed. And if they can't prove to us that they were married by documentation or something from the chapel or, pictures, then we will not issue them a new certificate. Now maybe the spouse is dead. This has happened in our office. The spouse is no longer there. They're trying to apply for benefits. They have nothing to show that they're married. And there's nothing we can do about it because there's no proof. So this is really the heart of why I think it needs to be a much more significant penalty for those that just I can marry anybody, I'll sign up for 2 things, and they don't take it seriously, and they don't do the job that is required, which is make sure that they do it correctly and file the paperwork. So that's what we're trying to do. Before you say anything, I'm going to just do the next step on this in our thought process. So what we're trying to do is we would like to be able to, instead of these online agencies, let the clerk also have an option where we can certify that you guys know what you're doing. And so if you are applying to be an officiant, do some kind of an online or in-person course that we establish that says, okay, now you've gone through the training, you know what you're doing. And to help fund that, what we would like to do is have, and also to help clean up the database, is to have officiant licenses renew every 5 years. It's still $25. We're going through the process of where we need a second background check or something like that. I mean, this is, again, something we would like to talk with you guys. But I think if we have a 5-year renewal, most people move every 4 or 5 years, that would let us, again, keep a really good, accurate database and not have to constantly be trying to second guess who's around and who isn't around. So between those two things, issuing a fine to unlicensed officiants, or whatever you want to call them, create an online officiant program so you don't have to go through those organizations that really don't offer any value to either you or us, and that we renew the officiant so that we know you guys are up to date if there's anything we need to train. It's $25 right now. There's no thought of raising the fee. That's $5 a year, and I think that it would be worth it for all of us so that we can make sure that those people that are really in the industry are listed and up to date and we have accurate information. And that would give us a little bit of a budget to be able to control that. So thoughts on kind of the whole package?
I want to be clear. The online site that is referring or saying that they have legal officiants, is that in existence? Is that what you're saying? Is that where it seem to be the problems coming from?
A lot of it, yeah, and there's not just one. There's a lot of online organizations that, I mean, if you look, become an officiant, and there's a whole list of them. You type in your name, and they say, now you're an officiant. And there's copy on there that says, well, here's what you might want to do. They don't follow state law because they're really for across the country. This is an issue, frankly, it's not just a Nevada issue. When I go to national meetings, this is a big issue for most of the clerks because it's a real problem that people think that they're licensed, but they're not really licensed because they don't do the due diligence to find out what is the state law.
Then my suggestion is we find the site as well as that person that's operating under that site. And I'm agreeing that there should be a progressive fine for the officiant, as the gentleman said.
That's a thought. I will talk to the senator about that.
Did the DA's office indicate anything about existing fines that are on record for gross misdemeanors? I mean, in that market of gross misdemeanors, are there not already some fines established when there's a crime been committed?
It's only a misdemeanor right now, and frankly, it's such a low misdemeanor that we can't get anyone to pursue that, right? I mean, it's such a, frankly, to the police, it's such a small issue that they really aren't interested in pursuing it. So by raising it to a gross misdemeanor and putting a fine, we're hoping that it will be able to encourage some compliance and potentially, maybe let
Well, I
our
think
office
bringing
issue
it up
it
to
or
a gross
something.
misdemeanor is important. But
Pardon?
I'm thinking that gross misdemeanor is important. I'm just wondering if there's not already some type of fine already established in the legal industry.
No.
Not for the wedding officiant portion, just in general. And I do think that every 5 years is a good thing for renewal of license per se, but I think the training should begin the minute someone applies. And that's what we
intend
really
to do.
what it is.
But we need to create a program and we need to get it all set. There's a process for even that. What do we want to make sure people know? How do you make sure that the person knows what they're doing before we issue? But I think that that's what we would like to move towards, where the clerk has the ability to set up something in lieu of these online officiants. And that way, it doesn't matter whether they're doing their thing or not. You could still apply for those that are on our list and are complying, or you have the option of coming through the clerk's office directly. Because right now they're giving no value either to the officiant or to the clerk's office.
So I'm just skimming through the legislator for false or fake businesses and and deceptive trade practice, and it does say that the first offense is guilty of a misdemeanor, second offense is a gross misdemeanor, and the third offense and any after would be a category D felony. I mean, not to mention that the fees are a maximum in each case of $5,000. Essentially, ministers in Las Vegas and officiants that practice, they're technically a business. I mean, they're selling their services pretty much. So can we handle them in the same?
Can you, does that have the NRS right there so I can look it up?
Yes. You want me to let me see.
That's not a bad model, yeah. Let me talk.
I mean, if we're going to compare it to anything, that I would possibly be.
Yeah, that's not a bad model. I should have
So
thought to look at
chapter
that.
598, deceptive trade practices.
Okay, I'll look that up.
And also that churches and organizations might be held accountable because they should be responsible for looking up who is active and working in their establishment.
Can you say that on camera again? Or not camera, but tape?
Yes, I would just also suggest that any of the organizations, churches, chapels throughout the Las Vegas area should be also held accountable because it's their responsibility to make sure that anyone working in their establishment is legal and active.
And knows what they're doing.
Okay, Lynn, I have a question. Okay, two things.
Fair
This 5-year thing, those of us who are going to get grandfathered in if the organization, doesn't comply with, how's that going to affect us, first of all? And second of all, as clergymen, you're not required to have a business license. You're tax exempt by the NRS code, so you're not doing a business, you're doing a service. Now, if you have a chapel, it's a different story. But us that travel to the people, we're just doing a service and marrying people. And by the Internal Revenue Law, you're not required to have a tax license or a business license, even though I have an EIN number. So that's another thing. And with the fines, yeah, it's a good idea, but the list of this online course, you're going to have everybody and their brother wanting to become officiants on an online course, thus having the training, those who are ministers and this and that. Because when you're a minister, you go through training to do weddings.
When you're an minister on a real church, you do. But on these online certifications, there's no training. And everyone and their brother is doing it on these online organizations already. So what I'm trying to do is make it even a little bit more accountable. But right now, again, the clerk's office can't say who is a religious organization or not. So if they say they are, and they're established in the state, and they comply with the law, then I have to take the authority to solemnize marriages from them. That's the law. So I don't get to choose who's a religious organization. I think, frankly, that going through the clerk's procedure would be certainly more onerous than typing your name in an online agency, and I think it would actually reduce a little bit, at least, those of people that just want to say, I can marry anybody. The 5-year thing, again, just to be clear, if we got this law passed, anyone that's a current officiant would have 5 years before their license would need to be renewed. If your religious organization is not complying with our requirements, then you would need to find a different religious organization at that time. But I'm not going to throw somebody off because their religious organization isn't complying. You will be grandfathered in even if we no longer accept the permission to solemnize marriages from them. Does that make sense?
The IRS determines if you're a church.
Correct. That's not my decision.
What the gentleman said is very true about the venue being responsible. We had a situation, the out-of-state minister had a 1-day license permit to perform marriages. He forgot it in his room. So the venue, being very cautious, required us to sign the license. He was the witness. He went through the roof because he says, I have my license for 1 day. Unfortunately, it was not present, so there was no ability to verify. So they must have this. Also, we've run into situations where the 1-day ministers have no clue how to fill out the paperwork. And that's what gets kicked back from your office, which we've discussed. So the online course, I think, is an excellent idea.
Yeah, I think we would require that for the 1-day ministers as well. And we're talking about permanent ministers on this discussion primarily, not 1 day, but the course, instead of, again, getting it from a religious organization that doesn't give them any instruction or information, they would then come through the clerk's office. So at least we would know that they're doing. And that they do you did correctly. They do have to show you that they have that permission before they are allowed to conduct the ceremony. So I appreciate you holding them accountable as well.
I just wanted to touch back on what we were discussing just a moment ago, especially with the gentleman, what he brought forward. First, I don't want to offend anybody. I apologize if I did, and I just wanted to make the similarities clear as far as the services that we provide, and the similarities as it being a business. I'm not saying that we do offer services, but in reality, if you're charging for those services, you're technically a business. If you are asking for a donation, that's completely different. I could be wrong, but that's what I pretty much know about taking fees over, what's the word? I just said it.
Gratuity.
Yes. So I just wanted to make that clear. I meant no disrespect to anybody, but I feel that it is as close to a business if you are charging fees, especially if you have a website and people are contacting you. How much do you charge for a wedding? You are a business.
Actually, I did want to talk about that a little bit later, so and get your input. So I think I could like a little bit longer discussion about that particular issue, just in a couple of minutes. Let's finish this first, though.
Just a question.
Yes?
Did you say that they do weddings and then they don't file a certificate and you can't find them? Is that what you said?
That's what we are proposing, correct.
No, not find, F-I-N-D, but you can't F-I-N-D them after?
Sometimes we cannot find them.
Well, here's
correct.
the question I guess I have
Correct.
to ask. Instead of a progressive fine for multiples, can their ability to do weddings under their name just be permanently revoked after a second time, if you will? And also, just a question, and
I can't revoke a license I didn't issue. That's
right,
the
right.
problem.
I guess that's what
yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
So
And then,
if they apply later,
a little naive, right.
Yeah, I think that's what you're talking about.
And in the other case, is there a way, and again, I might be a little naive, that something can be put on a wedding thing that says, please ensure that your officiant is properly licensed, and we have to actually present that license, as they do at the chapel that I'm in. That has to be presented. So if we all have to present a valid license to the people that we're marrying.
I think that's in our one sheet that says,
It is, but it isn't prominent on that little tear-off sheet at the top. Maybe if it was printed there, or something that says, that makes it more
we
important.
have actually a new one sheet. We don't have it quite yet. It's at the printer that we're going to be presenting. You know the thing on how to get married in Vegas? We did something similar that's hopefully less copy heavy, that gives bullets, and that's one of the things on the bullet. So that'll start going out with the couples at the beginning of December is what we're estimating when we're done with this printing of the current pink slip. Over here is a question too.
On that same note, I'm representing your Laughlin area. And I don't want to offend anyone by my comments, but I'm very honest about this conversation right now, about making sure the documents and the paperwork are done properly and the person is licensed to perform the ceremonies. And I've had numerous calls this last year, as I have in the 20 years of doing weddings, periodically from frantic brides and grooms who find out the person that was going to perform the ceremony isn't legitimate in Nevada. So with that said, I know that the chapels do a great job. There are some concerns about the casinos that are offering all of these wedding services to brides and grooms, and they're really not following through with this process.
Are you specifically talking about Laughlin?
I can say that, yes.
Because
but
I think the
we
chapels
came from the
appeared-
northern area of Nevada, so I can speak for that area as well. But in
So,
regards to this,
I think please let me
There-
know if a specific incidents, not
well, there
in
have
front
been.
of everyone.
I'm just saying,
I'm not
as
disagreeing
a
with you.
follow-up,
but-
maybe in your
yeah.
office, is to give these casinos that are offering these wedding services to couples a little bit more education and knowledge, and they go through a lot of help.
Absolutely.
So it's very difficult, but I think they need to pass this information on to brides and grooms, and they need to be as responsible
Absolutely.
as these chapels are. Granted, it's a little different because the chapel is making sure their paperwork's being done correctly, but I do think that these casinos need to be held accountable for providing these services but not educating anyone, and then they don't care. So I'm just being real honest about it, and they really need to know that, and I've kind of touched on this in an office with business licenses and such, and the problem is that they can't find people.
Correct.
You know, so we just could start at the top here, which is the casinos that they say, well, the casinos in Vegas do make sure. Well, I'm here to tell you the casinos in Laughlin are not as thorough.
Again, I would like to maybe talk with you
please know that.
separately on this issue, because we do intend to go down to Laughlin, I think, at the end of the month. I'm trying to set up meetings with those very organizations, and I would love to have your input before I go down.
Sincere apology for any redundancies, but for clarity. So we are saying that if I can get around about our specific date, because what we are saying is that in the near future, anyone who desires to be licensed as a wedding officiant will have to take this course, correct?
No. What we're saying is that anyone that desires to be licensed as a wedding officiant will have to go through, just like they do now, a church or religious organization established in the state. We've been reaching out to all of the churches and religious organizations that are currently offering affidavits to solemnize marriages that we require before according to the law, before I can take your application and issue it. So we're reaching out to them and say, prove to us that you are a religious organization established in the state. And if anybody's really concerned, we can go through the whole list, but it's pretty broad. If they cannot do that, then we no longer will accept their affidavit to solemnize marriages. We have a list currently on our site of those organizations, 150 that have complied. So those are still legitimate. But what I'm asking the legislature is to let the clerk, in lieu of an online organization, if you're already with the church, there's no problem getting, if you're with a real brick and mortar church, there's no problem getting your affidavit from them. But if you're going to an online thing where all you do is put in your name, type in your name, and then they give you this affidavit to solemnize marriages, but you have no value from it, we get no value from it, then I would like to also allow the clerk to do something that trains you in lieu of that online requirement. Does that make sense?
Yes, and so for clarity again, and I apologize to the room, so the training of the wedding officiants will still lie on the churches, and as long as the churches are registered.
Yeah, if you're going, and I'm not trying to put down anyone, but if a real church makes you do stuff before you get that affidavit.
Correct.
And so I don't need to worry about you, because I know that the Mormon church or the Catholic church or the, all those different churches, they're not going to give that casually. What we're doing is we're getting casually from these online organizations that all you do is type in your name, and they have some information on their website that you may or may not read, often not. And those I would like to be able to, in lieu of that affidavit to solemnize marriages from an online organization that doesn't really comply with the laws of the state, I would like the clerk to be able to also offer you another venue.
And the listing of those churches is on your site, so we can go there and...
The list is on the site. If your church is not on the site, tell them, to contact us so that we can get them on the site. That's not a problem. If they're, it's pretty broad, and we can show you, if anybody that's interested, we can show you a copy of the letter that we sent out. There's really some very broad criteria. We are not going to determine whether you are a church or religious organization. You need to show us what you've done that shows you're a church or religious organization, and then we'll accept that. Oh, I need you to do the mic before you. I need you to do the mic before you start talking. Can you do the mic so that I can hear you?
I'm having trouble hearing you because several conversations are going on at one time.
Several conversations?
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm going to another minister. If you don't like it, sit closer then. Okay? We
No,
Please keep your comments to yourself.
no.
Because I'm talking to another minister.
But have your conversations outside.
It's about what's going on
We're
here.
trying to hear her, not you.
Okay. Comment over here?
Okay, yes.
God, because your attitude is negative.
This is in regards to what I call the pink sheet that you give to people when they get their license. And the very first item on here says, and I'm applauding you for this because this is the very first thing. In order to have a legal marriage, a ceremony must be performed, and then this is in all bold and underlined, in the state of Nevada by a person authorized to perform wedding ceremonies in Nevada. And then you go back to regular type, see the minister licensing page of the county clerk's website. In my opinion, that's the best that you can do, and that's about all that you can do from the standpoint that puts it on the couple to make sure that their person is authorized.
Yeah, we do the best we can, but we can't spend 5 minutes lecturing everyone either, and they won't listen anyway, frankly, because half the time they're so excited and nervous that they don't hear anything you say. And so and again, when you guys, if you're booking somebody, make sure that you emphasize that as well. And we have a new pink sheet coming out that has that information, but in hopefully a format that they're more conducive to read.
Question over here. So I've been ordained through 2 online churches. And what I would suggest is, because when I've been ordained through the church, it just simply says, like you said, you put your name in and then you're ordained. But it doesn't say that you're legally allowed to perform marriages in your state. So I know that the people who are involved, at least with the ULC and the AMM, they're pretty open-minded because I've talked to them myself a few times. Perhaps before they ordain you, you have to sign something either digitally or electronically that says, I'm about to be ordained by your church. However, I know that I must look into my state's laws. Because
Well, I think most of them do say Nevada, what special laws for Nevada, and I think South Carolina. I think there's a couple states that have further requirements. Not all states do. And so we had a radio show person who went online, said they were ordained. They argued with us, well, I can perform marriages in lots of states. Well, no, actually you can't perform marriages in Nevada. And their person, they didn't do it. So we're trying the best we can. We are reaching out to every church that has ordained any of our ministers. We're sending them a letter. If they call us or write us or email us, we follow up. We are trying to tell them, this is what you need to do. We're not trying to be difficult, but we do want to make sure that people are actually licensed and know what to do. So I, encourage them to ensure, there are hundreds of these places. We're doing our best to reach out to them and make them understand that this is probably, again, the most important legal contract you ever sign in your life, and that they need to take it seriously.
And one other thing I was thinking of a suggestion is that as officiants, when we do the marriage certificate, perhaps you could put something, because you put on the top, I, Reverend so-and-so, have done the ceremony. Perhaps you could put another section where you have to put your license number.
We would like to do that, actually. The older officiants don't all have license numbers. We're in the process. There's like steps. We can't do everything all at the same time. We would like everyone to do that, and that will actually help us match things better as well. So that is in the game plan, but not the first thing. And then if you're old enough in the system that you don't have a number, you can just, approach us and we will issue you a number to use.
Okay.
And at no charge.
And are we going to discuss charging for our services? Because I was...
Yeah, this is a little bit more of an open discussion now, but, and maybe that's really the next thing, I think. So this is what I really want to talk now, make sure I understand. These are the things that I'm taking forth to the DA, to the legislature, and I want to make sure that I understand your concerns and that I'm, going forward with things that you guys actually support. So that's what I'm trying to do today. At this particular section.
And yeah, that's part of my point to the 5-year renewal, because the church itself has to maintain its status with the state of Nevada. That's on a yearly basis. So how many ministers do you know approximately apply?
You know, we
per
still
year?
don't really know. That we're in the process of.
The $25, I would say, would be valuable, obviously, to their education, to going to this fund. But for the established ministers that are doing, it kind of seems like, and you're saying no talk of an increase in the $25 at this point, but obviously that's subject to change as most things.
Yeah,
are.
and what I'm trying to do is make sure that we have the revenue that we need so that we can do the things we need to do. So, I know that nobody wants to pay for things, but there has to be some way that we can do these things. So it doesn't seem to me, and maybe you guys, raise your hand if you think that renewing every 5 years is, well, raise your hand if you're support of renewing every 5 years. And the fee, again, is nominal. So I think the majority, raise your hand if you really oppose a 5-year renewal for officiants.
I'm thinking 4. Well, it matches up with your driver's license and your notary and things like that.
Well, that's true. Notaries already have to do that, correct? So raise any other concerns why you do not think that that's fair to have a 5-year renewal. Raise your hand if you want to give me your argument for not a 5-year renewal. I think over here was, no? I need a microphone over here. Or, did you have a? I didn't see your hand, sorry. Did you?
I have no comment.
Okay. No, that would be, then if this law passes, 5 years from when the law passes or when it's implemented, then you guys also would have to renew. That's what I'm talking about. So, and then new people, when they apply, 5 years from then. So then we.
Are you still saying then that you're given permanent status per se,
Who's
but that
talking?
you're just
Oh, there, okay, sorry.
but that you're just renewing it every 5 years? That doesn't eliminate the permanent status.
Correct.
Okay, and just our clerk in Laughlin, she does an awesome job, and she makes sure when couples come in and get their marriage license that they understand who's marrying you, is your officiant legal in Nevada. So she has helped when she asks that question to try to get rid of the problem before it happens. And that makes a big difference.
Good, thank you. Yeah, we do try to give them a little spiel, but again, a lot of times they're not in the mood to hear anything we say, which is fine. You try to say it like everything, multiple times in multiple ways. Any other concerns? Go ahead.
Lynn, is it possible to look into a moratorium on how many officiants license would be issued to Nevada or Las Vegas so that it doesn't get out of hand for you guys? Let's say you go through that 4,500 and you find out that there's 1,500, that are actually working. Set the total at 3,000 or whatever you guys determine that to be, so that it doesn't get out of hand like this.
I would have to talk to my DA whether that's even legal, but I can do that. I can ask. I understand that, it is a business. We're trying to make a living. We don't want everyone under the sun, but
Well,
I do
I
need
mean-
to find out whether that's even legal for me to do something
All right,
like that.
if
But
you
I will
can
look into it.
that. Thank you.
I just wanted to quickly say that I would absolutely support the moratorium, but in order to then deal with the whole online thing, just have the online be for the short-term, one-time, I want my best friend forever to marry me type of situation, with and have it cost more. I think when you do something online, you recognize that there is a convenience that you have to pay for, and so I think for that convenience, it should cost more, especially if it's just for a one-time deal.
Well, one of my thoughts on that is, again, they really are not giving us any value when you just type your name in. They don't know if you know anything. And one of the things we are asking the couple themselves is to write a little, why do you want so-and-so to marry you? And I would like to be able to use that again for one time only, in lieu of some authorization that is meaningless. But if I get from the couple, yeah, I really want my father, then what these are supposed to be doing, what the churches are supposed to be doing is vouching for you. That's really the whole intent. So this organization says, yes, Paula is a good person. I know that she's going to do what she's supposed to be doing. That's the intention. And so if we can find that intention in another way, it makes sense to me, and that's what I'm trying to do. Any other questions about that particular thing? Okay, and I did pass around out there, and then we can pass around. On this, specifically on these legislative issues, I know it says if you want to be emailed, but we already have we know how to find you. So don't sign up on there if you just want to be emailed about upcoming events. But if you do want to be more involved in the legislative process, please put your name down so that we might be able to contact you when things are appropriate, or when I have further questions, or when maybe I need support, or you might need to testify, those kinds of things. So just to be double clear, so we're pretty much in agreement that this is the way that we would like to go on these legislative issues. Is that correct? We think they would benefit the officiants in the long run? Yes? Okay, thank you. And now for the real discussions. A couple notes, and Ashley, you were going to talk about some of this. So again, I know you guys all know this, especially you guys that show up, but please make sure that the marriage license is presented before you marry the couple. We just had another incident where somebody forgot their license. They wanted to get married. The chapel married them, and then one of them said, well, I didn't really want to get married. And then the other one said, yeah, we did want to get married. And then the first one said, well, yeah, we wanted to get married, but it was a recommitment ceremony. Well, we actually tore up the paperwork. I mean, it was a disaster. So how do I know then at that point whether I should file this, whether it's not legal, whether it's legal? The law says it's a misdemeanor not to see the paperwork before you marry a couple. So just as a reminder, please, this is why we want you to do that, so that nobody can go back and say, I didn't really mean it, we didn't have the paper, we never actually filed for our marriage license, but we think that we were married, or we don't think we were married. It's just crazy. So please just make sure you follow the law.
So probably a lot of people are going to frown upon what I'm going to say, but I've worked through many, many chapels along the Strip, and no disrespect to these chapels, there's many great ones, but I've been to several of them that the couple forgot their marriage license at their hotel or something along the way. The chapel then tries to coerce the minister to actually perform the ceremony and then wait around for the couple to go get that for you. I've been in cases where I've seen ministers sitting there waiting for the couple for hours. And unfortunately, I've refused them, but they kind of make you feel like you won't ever work at that chapel again if you don't follow their rules. I don't think it's fair.
It is against the law, and if you look at the NRS on how you marry
and that's
somebody,
been explained
you
to them
need to present the marriage papers before you conduct the ceremony. It's very clear in the law. It then calls into question that even if you marry somebody and they later bring the paperwork, it still may not be a legal marriage. If someone wanted to contest it later, they have a legitimate argument, and that's not what we want. We want to make sure that these are marriages that are rock solid because we followed the law. So you are actually correct. If they say they left their paperwork, my advice is make them go and get it.
Yeah,
and
which
bring it in.
I've
Because
done.
how do you know they really even filed?
Exactly. I've done that. I've refused, and I have not been welcomed back to those chapels. So I don't think it's fair that it's looked on me following the law, but the chapels are afraid to get a bad review.
And the officiant is who, if we learn about it later, who would be called in front of the clerk's office for a hearing about whether your license would be revoked or not. Thank you.
And that same incident happened in a casino. And I got a lot of flack because they had everything paid for and they didn't have their marriage license. And I always let couples know that I need that document before we can perform the ceremony. And everyone got upset at me because I wasn't willing to perform the ceremony without the paperwork. As it turned out, they didn't have it, and they were going to go get one in the next day or so and then go get legally married. So it does happen.
Yeah, so you are you're more than welcome to perform a commitment ceremony as long as it's very clear that it's a commitment ceremony and it is not a legal ceremony, because the law says the paperwork must be presented to the officiant before the ceremony. So that's the law. Did the woman right beside you?
I was going to ask about the commitment ceremony thing, but do you think, because we get in the position where we're an hour out of town, they're not realistically going to be able to go get their stuff and tell people, you understand this is a ceremony, you're not legally married, blah, blah, blah. To protect ourselves, should we make them sign something saying that they understand that they are not legally married, and if they want to be legally married, they need to meet up with us, different time, different date, etc., and have
The
a
law
ceremony?
says that it starts out in the NRS that the couple must present their marriage license to the officiant as the first line of how you can become legally married. So it calls into question, if they don't do that, even if they think or you think you're doing a legal marriage, it calls into question, and there would be a legitimate argument to go before the court that it wasn't a legal marriage. So if you want to be involved in that, then go ahead. But I would advise that you follow the law and make sure that the paperwork is in your hands and you see that it's correct before you marry somebody. And if they don't have it, you can perform a love ceremony, but it's not a marriage.
Along with that, in Laughlin, we have the river.
Just 1 second, please.
In Laughlin, we have the river, and a lot of couples get married on the boats. And the problem came up when I brought the business down here was, well, why can't we get a Nevada marriage license? So I had contacted your office, and as it turns out, the DA did explain that because they have to be docked in order to constitute it as a Nevada marriage license, even though they share the same river. And coming from northern Nevada and Lake Tahoe, there are similar rules. So just a kind of an FYI for people that do weddings on water that share other states, is that we need to make sure that we're in compliance with that.
Correct, because we did a lot of research trying to find like where the line in the river is, and how do you know if you get a license from Clark County, you must be married in Nevada. You can't be married in another state, it's not legal. And so if you cross over and come back, again, that lets someone potentially call into question whether they really followed the law. So that's why we absolutely recommend that you do the actual ceremony while they're docked, and then you can go out and do whatever you want, or before or after. But you do want to make sure that you can 100% swear to a court that yes, you were in Nevada when you performed the ceremony. So that's exactly correct. We need a mic if you're going to talk. Do we have 2 mics? Oh, we have it right there. Another question or comment?
This is regarding couples not providing a license, how we handled that at Wynn Las Vegas. I created an affidavit that was vetted by our legal department. The couple signs an affidavit along with the witness that they understand this is not a legal ceremony and the reasons for it. And then we go ahead and do a commitment ceremony with avoiding all terms that could identify it as marriage, and it's worked marvelously.
I mean, we saw one thing where the woman, or the man, I can't remember which one, when they're setting up the appointment with the chapel, says, I want a commitment ceremony, but he thinks it's a marriage, so can you go along with this? No, we can't do that. I don't think so. I mean, don't let somebody pull you into a legal entanglement you don't need to do. Any other comments about this particular issue? I mean, you guys all know you are not who I'm really talking to, but just make sure you tell everybody else, because you guys do it right. Again, Ashley, do you want to talk real quickly about, we took over the marriage certificate process from the recorder's office, and we have done some things slightly different. And one of the things that we pride ourselves in is our incredible customer service led by Ashley, and how quickly that we have been able to turn things around. One of the things that we do that my understanding the recorder's office didn't is we review those things after you submit them so that we make sure that everything's done correctly. Some people get upset when we call and say this needs to be fixed and you need to come in before the 10 days so that you can file this correctly. So some people get upset and yell at Ashley. I don't want anybody yelling at Ashley. We have two choices. We can either file everything and keep it in the speedy process, but then if we find an error, then you would still have to come in and repair the error, but then there would be a fee. So what she's trying to do is let you not have a fee, but still file everything. So we can do that on an individual basis. If you would rather her not review your work, we need to know that. And then if there's an error, then you can come in and pay the fee, and we'd be happy to do that. Or we can continue to file and do it as rapidly as possible, but then double check and make sure that your stuff is accurate. So Ashley, I'm sorry to stole your thunder. I just don't want anybody yelling at Ashley when she's trying to actually do a really good job and provide excellent customer service.
I believe that. I want to say, poor Ashley, what kind of errors are they submitting to you?
We have some that are missing.
Ashley, they can't, a little bit.
We have some that are missing titles, missing city, missing the address at the bottom. So we call and let you know. Some of you have received calls from us and come in and fix it. If you want us to just file it and not call, we can.
I mean, we're trying to provide an additional customer service, but if you don't like it, we don't have to do that, I guess is what we're trying to say. A question over here.
My comment is...
Just a second, please.
Since they've taken over.
Can you wait for the mic so that it can be recorded?
They're doing an incredible job since they've taken over, and several times she's called me, and I'm literally half a block away, and she's already on the phone saying, "Oh, we missed something. Can you come back?" I would much rather get that phone call than have to come in later. And I think they're doing a great job. So and yes, please call us.
Thank you. And again, if you, even on an individual, I think we'll keep up the process, but on an individual basis, if you would rather us just file everything and then call you later when we find an error, just let us know and we'll do that instead. So we don't have to change it for everyone, but we would like you to be appreciative instead of angry when we call and say that there was something. We cannot possibly do it at this rate of speed and also check everything while everyone's standing there. So we have to make a choice. And again, you guys can say, for me, I would rather you file everything and then check it.
Any chance that we could file the marriage licenses in Laughlin office?
I don't think so right now.
Because we do rely on the mail, and I make sure it goes in priority with a tracking number and such.
Again, I'm going to go down to Laughlin. I think I'm trying to set up some appointments, and I would like to have these kind of discussions with Laughlin. I mean, Laughlin is its own beast. We're trying to maintain the services we have. I really need to speak on that individual. I would love your input is what I'm telling you, but maybe not right now.
Just thought I'd see if it was on the table.
It's not right now, but let's talk about it. The problem is there's equipment and everything involved, so there's an expense. So, but we'll talk about it. Any other questions about that? No? Yes? Okay. So that is the 10-day correction. Any questions or comments about the 10-day filing fee and the corrections? I want to talk about commitment versus marriage. Again, based on some of the incidences that we deal with that come back, please just make sure that everyone is aware whether they're doing a marriage or whether they're doing a commitment. And I think that's pretty clear. Any questions or comments? We didn't really think so. Now, the next one, I do expect some comments and questions. Minister fees versus gratuity. And again, the reason I'm bringing this up is because people call my office and are mad and complain about different things. And so what I'm trying to do is reach out to you guys and tell you what issues I'm hearing and try to get your feedback on what we can do better. There's all sorts of things related to that. And you guys have made these decisions for years. I don't know, frankly, in my opinion, and this is as Lynn, not necessarily as an official opinion from the clerk, If you're a business and charging for the business, I think that you should be putting that on your invoices and making sure that people understand before they get married what the cost is so that they're not concerned afterwards. That's what we get calls about is, I thought it was X and it turns out to be Y, and that's fraud, and what can you do about it? And so that's why I'm bringing it to you, because this is an issue that we get calls and emails about. So can you guys kind of explain to me a little bit about why you say gratuity but you expect a certain amount, or why you don't say fee, or is it involved in your invoices in the first place? Can you guys tell me a little bit what's going on with that? Anybody? Because I'd like to be able to respond intelligently when people do call us.
I can't speak for everyone, but I know for myself, I do a lot of weddings through my website, and it's a fee, and I claim that on my taxes as well. I choose not to do the officiant tax, but however, I do know that some of the chapels, again, not to throw any of them under the bus, but they require the fee. Some of them call it a gratuity because they want to avoid claiming it. Most of the chapels collect a fee and use it as petty cash. It's never documented in taxes. Again, I've worked for several of them where the minister gets their cut, and then you have to give the chapel a cut of whatever the couple pays you as the minister. I've worked at one where I had to give 50% of whatever the couple gave me, including the fee or gratuity after the fact. Personally, I don't believe that's fair. This is one of the reasons why I'm not at that chapel anymore. I've been to 3 other chapels that do the same thing. This is a gratuity for the minister. You pay the minister directly, and then I have to give a cut to the chapel.
Well, my concern is when people call me and are upset, or they don't pay the gratuity because they feel it's a gratuity and they don't have to pay the gratuity. And, again, we're down another 2% this year. And some of these people, if they're willing to email me or call me, are often emailing in social media. So these are the kinds of things that I don't think look good for Las Vegas. And the social media, especially with the millennials, they really rely on social media and their friends and word of mouth about why they want to come, whether they trust a place. And when you're coming long distance, even if it's just California, when you're coming long distance, you want to make sure that you have a trusted source when you get there. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I think this kind of practice is giving us a black eye. I don't know what we can do about it. What can we do about it? I don't know. You guys have been around for a long time. The chapels, I think, need to take a lead on this and try to get it so that we don't have negative press going out about us.
Right. I would suggest if the ministers have to essentially do some kind of online training, maybe the chapels too have to do some kind of training to be equal across the board from all other chapels. Because one chapel's doing one thing, another chapel does another thing. And it really does, like you said, it really does give a bad reputation in the wedding industry.
And it does. Casinos, they're number one on that. They charge a fee for their package, a cost. And in that fee does not include the minister fee, but they try to work with the minister to show up and then get paid by the couple after the ceremony. And the couples get upset because they're like, well, we thought it was all included. And that does create a problem.
That, I think,
and
is
in
where
my
the big
industry,
problem is, when they say it's all
Yes.
included and then there's extra things that weren't included.
Yes, and that does happen. So I eliminated that process. And with that came a lot of hurt feelings with some of these casinos, because after having 20 years experience, I've always worked with the couple personally. They've paid me directly, not to a casino, not to anyone else. And I know that doesn't fit the chapel's molds or any of that type of thing, but that eliminated any hardships, concerns, who pays who, those bad feelings afterwards, not knowing what they need to do or who's been paid or what was part of it. And it really is a big problem because a lot of couples aren't explained thoroughly, or they're not hearing it, okay?
Well, and then we have people that are advertising free weddings. And then they get there and they're not really free weddings. And that makes it difficult for someone that has a brick and mortar facility to compete with free weddings. And so, again, you know, I need some, like how, right, which is true with all the officiants. So, as soon as, yeah, in a minute, thank you.
Everybody's got experiences. Who cares?
Okay.
If you're
Any other comments before we move on to hand billers?
yeah, if you're wanting to make sure that you get all the certificates back, why don't you go to the legislator and have them put a nominal minister's fee into the certificates, and then when the minister returns the certificate, he gets the fee. That way, you'll know that you get your certificates back.
That's an idea. Now, you know that would be considered a tax and need 2/3 of the vote of the legislature. So, and I don't know how we would, that's not a bad idea. That would be more difficult. Let me
Hi.
put it that way.
I might not be the usual chapel, but I have a chapel here in town, and we believe in paying all of our employees or our contractors, such as the ministers, so they know in advance what they're getting paid, that they're being paid by us via payroll every 2 weeks. And then the couple's told if they're happy with services, whether it's the limo driver, the photographer, the wedding officiant, that it's customary to provide a gratuity, and if no one is to ask them, or no one will ask them for anything because they won't work for us if they do. And then it doesn't ever put anyone in an awkward position. And we see that 90% of the time, the officiant is getting a nice gratuity and a nice paycheck from us. And I don't think it's fair to put people in awkward positions, having to run to the ATM because they've forgotten the minister fee or didn't know. It's just my feedback.
I disagree. For the sake of the Las Vegas wedding reputation, the bait and switch.
I'm sorry, you need to speak just a little bit louder.
I disagree that for the sake of our reputation, the Las Vegas wedding industry, that the bait and switch, it leaves a sour taste in people's mouth.
It leads to, it seems like a bait and switch is what you're saying? Yeah. Yeah, I think it does.
Sorry, I was just saying, ultimately, it ends up making us look bad and not the chapel. You know, it all comes down to, a lot of the times they think that we're specifically affiliated with that specific chapel. And I try to explain to some of them, you know, a lot of the ministers in Vegas hop around from one chapel to another chapel to another chapel, and they shouldn't be held responsible for whatever the chapel is doing. We do try to express that, but it's hard, and some chapels limit you on your interaction with the couple as well.
I'm over here. So I think it's the chapel's responsibility to communicate with the couples, because I own a chapel and we don't pay our ministers. Our ministers are independent contractors, but our coordinators say that this is, and we give them an envelope. This is, and we say it on our website, this is the amount that the ministers cost, and they mention that so everyone knows what's going on. But we've educated our coordinators to say that, because we don't employ our ministers, we employ drivers, photographers, and coordinators. So I just want to throw that out as well, because it is a reflection of the chapel what the ministers do. So if they can just do that, and I've worked. I'm sorry. No, I am not. We do not. Our chapel does not do a kickback, and I've worked for several other chapels. But I mean that if you work for a chapel that requires a kickback as a minister, you already know going into it. I've never had a chapel that was shady about that. They were very upfront about that. And then me as the minister, I'm just believing. And every chapel I've worked for has told the couples the minister's donation is this amount. You can give more if you want, and then it's just you just hand them an envelope, and that's just the way it's been.
Just a second, please. Can you get on the mic before you comment?
The minister, we say a minister's fee, so we use the word fee, not a donation.
Yeah, fee. I
And
think
so,
that's
and
the
it's
difference
on the
between a fee-
envelope. So I'm speaking for the chapels that I worked for. I'm not speaking for, sir, the chapel you worked for. I don't know how they do that practice. I'm just saying
moreover
all
saying that-
chapels, all
let him finish.
chapels are not that way that you're. That
And
you're
I said
saying.
that in the beginning of my statement. I don't think every chapel is the same. I've noticed several chapels that I've encountered. But if you're setting a minimum, it's not a donation. It's a fee. And if you're setting a fee, then that's up to I believe, should be up to the independent contractor. Am I
Well,
wrong?
I do think it needs to be on the invoice that you give to the couple before they get married, so they know what the true cost. And then you know, there's gratuities for dinner too, but you still know what the cost is. So it's not a surprise that you have a cost. That's the concern I have. You know, anybody is an individual business. You can do your business however you like. I don't want to see it come back and get, you know, people complaining or upset, and then it goes out on social media that Vegas, you know, has issues. So I want to make sure that we have the best reputation that we have, and this is one of the things that's coming back to my office, and then people are upset when they think they've been, you know, said, and that kind of goes to some of the hand billers as well, when they think there's one price and then it ends up being another price. And we can talk, I think some of it is hand billers in here, so let's go ahead and, you know, we need to make sure that the true cost is told to couples so that they know what they're doing going in, I believe.
So I know you asked the question so that you would have clarity on why people do that. And I think as far as mobile ministers, there's two reasons. One is that a lot of people think that if you don't charge a fee, but that you ask for gratuity, then you're not a business and that you don't need a business license. And the other reason is because they're trying to undercut the competition. A lot of people will say they're doing free weddings, but their gratuity is $125. So if they come off as coming, you know, cheaper than my services, they're going to get booked, and they're taking money out of other people's pockets. But those are the two main reasons I see
Yeah,
why
I'm very
mobile
concerned
ministers
about
do it.
these free, you know, free weddings, because they're not free. And I think, again, it undercuts what we're really trying to do, which is not be the cheesiest, cheapest place in the world, but to provide weddings at every price point. And if you want to do it for free, then get your officiant, it's your best friend, and do it for free and cater your own dinner. That's fine. No one says you can't do that, but I think that as a profession, we need to make sure that we look and are, you know, ethical, and people know what they're getting, especially as it moves more towards millennials that really do look online and make decisions based on our reputation.
Understanding that we all submit to a common authority here in Las Vegas, where is the authority clerk in your team or folks that are affiliated with your team actually going out and taking a visit to ensure that there is consistency? I'm sure that there should be some guidelines as to what is acceptable, what is permissible, what is ethical, and what are we doing to ensure that we don't have issues like the one that we just heard? Because it just sounds like there's just a whole lot going on, but it's not enforced or it's not officed or managed very well. So what is it that you can do or your team can do or we can do to ensure that there is a greater level of consistency so that chapels are complying?
The law does not currently give me the authority to do that. We would have to ask the legislature to give me the authority to do that, to specify what I could do, and hopefully to give me funding to do that, because I don't have any extra people that can go out and do that. I don't think that we necessarily need to do that if we can come to an agreement as an industry and try to resolve some of these issues internally. So I would rather not do that unless it, you know, we get so many complaints and it has some real impact on the industry. So I don't really think that that's the first choice, certainly from my personal perspective. But I do think bringing these issues forward, letting you know that I do get complaints and that people are upset, and a lot of times very upset. I think that's my job to bring that back to you and tell you these are things that I'm getting complaints about and that bring concern to my office. So that is what I'm trying to do. And obviously we don't have every chapel here. We have some chapels, we have, you know, a lot that are not here, but I'm trying to open a dialogue so that we can say, here are things that I think are making our business decline, that are costing us in the long run, and what can we do as an industry to try to resolve some of these things so that we do look like the wedding experts of the world and the most fun, safe place to come to get married. That's my goal. So, yeah, I mean, again, this is an open discussion. I want your input and your help.
I think when you have those meetings, those trainings, you can suggest that the new officiants talk to the chapels before they get involved with the customer, and that way it alleviates a lot of this future problems.
Yeah, and I would like to talk about hand billers a little bit as well. I think that's another issue that I get a lot of concern with. We're almost at noon, so I don't want to make you guys be here too long. You know, again, I get a, go ahead. I need you to be on the mic. We have another question over there with the mic.
You're in the industry with the wedding officiants, with this whole
I'm sorry,
process.
say it one more time.
You're in the industry dealing with the wedding officiants, the licensing. Maybe a suggestion is the businesses, casinos, chapels, everyone that's providing the alcohol, the food, all of the above, because it's not just a bad reflection that there was a problem with the minister or the fees for the minister,
Correct.
but there's a problem with the services being provided for those weddings as well. That's also triggering a bad taste in people's mouths not wanting to get married in our area anymore. So it might be something to look at, to work with the chambers or something to that nature as far as trying to secure that better, because I don't think it's just the bad taste from the officiant and paying them. Although you get those calls, but that's your office. That's your
Correct.
job. It's
Correct.
also other things.
You had a question over there or a comment?
Yes, there is an NRS number, and I will get that to you about pricing for chapels. I will get that to you. I know because I was just written up, because I just opened my door on Friday, so I know. There is an NRS number that you have to post and have to go by dollars that are posted.
Is that through business licensing then? Through Metro. Okay. Again, I didn't know about that. Thank you. I'll look at it.
Yeah, no one knew.
Okay. Okay. And hand billers, I know that we wanted to talk about hand billers, so either issue. And you guys specifically wanted to talk about hand billers. Do you have a comment that you'd like to bring forward? Yes, no? Hand billers? No. Sorry. This is, and as we get things smoother in the office and resolve all the things, this is more what I would like to see as an open discussion with everyone. So I know it's time consuming sometimes, but I appreciate it. I appreciate hearing from any other comments about, did you want to mention hand billers? But what happened to the mic? I thought she had a mic right there.
Where are the hand billers supposed to be standing down by the Regional Justice Center? Is it by the light pole where the customer crosses the street to press the button?
Are we on?
Yes.
Okay. The lines are actually marked on the sidewalks, and there's a green box basically that they're supposed to be standing in.
Is it right on the corner where the customer walks on the crosswalk?
No, it's not. It is just off of that. And it's on both sides. but just
So they can
probably
stand
10
right
feet
by
away.
the steps, right by the steps of the.
They're not supposed to be.
Okay, well they are.
I understand. So there are two things at play here. One is county property, which is part of that sidewalk, and that is technically controlled by the county and by the marshals there. And when we see that, we can report that, and after a while, it does take some convincing, but get the marshals to address them on that.
And
if they go outside of that box and they're on the public sidewalk, then technically that becomes a city issue because that building is downtown Las Vegas.
And how many hand billers can be down there at one time, and how big is this area that they can stand in?
There are no regulations on how many hand billers there can be or how long they can be there.
And are they supposed to just talk about the chapel that they're selling for, or can they say whatever they want?
The way I would look at it is that they're expressing their First Amendment right. So this is very similar to the issues that the folks down on the Strip have. You see that in the news a lot. The casinos where they've got the hand billers down there standing on the streets. I think local government here in Clark County, Las Vegas, have not been able to find a way to address those folks in a way that protects the customers.
Well, because just several of our customers have been accosted after they've gone down there to get to license when they have our information in their hand, and then the hand billers are saying things about, our business, which really shouldn't be any of their business. They can say, here, this is what we provide, take a look at our packages, what have you, and end of story, that should be it. Because if it continues, it's not...
It's slander.
Well, that actually is, and if you could catch them at that, then you could sue them for that.
Right.
That would be you doing that.
Got it.
So
And we've been trying to work more closely with business licensing as well. So some of the things that, the clerk's office doesn't have any authority over, business licensing does. So what we're trying to do is just make sure that businesses are conducting themselves in an ethical way that reflects well on Las Vegas. So if you find somebody that is giving misinformation out, we need it documented so that we can talk to business licensing about it.
What is the cost for a hand biller's license, and how often does that have to be renewed?
I don't know that there is. And if there is, that would be with the city of Las Vegas. So.
Right. And then is it required that the hand biller can put the customer into a car and then drive them to their destination, and without $1 million life insurance policy on every single person that's in that car?
I think once again that would be a question for somebody in the
Okay,
legal.
because that's an issue that the city of Las Vegas might want to look into, because if something happens to that person, I guarantee you're going to hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. It's they're offering a service beyond what they're supposed to be doing, hand billing. But if they're getting paid and then it's a taxi service, they're not licensed to do that. I mean, I think there's a lot of potential issues around that. But there is nothing that we can do as in the clerk's office to do anything about that other than raise the attention, which we have done.
So then we just need to talk to business licensing about that?
Well, what Lynn's talking about is, I would say, a little bit of a new direction, but really business license, what they would have authority of would be over the chapels that have a license that are hiring the hand billers. But you have to think of that in terms of what kind of authority would business license have to deal with that. Now, there might be something, I don't know.
Well, providing limousine service or transportation for a client, you have to have a certain amount of insurance per person to be able to transport a customer. And if they don't have it and something happens and that person gets beheaded, I guarantee you it's going to be a bad...
Understand everybody in this room has the ability to talk to business license, and we're talking about the city of Las Vegas business license, because there's Clark County business license and then each one of the cities, or to a lawyer. And I don't want to encourage any confrontations out there, because we have had violent confrontations out there, usually amongst the hand billers themselves. But to actually catch them in the act of doing something wrong, and reporting that, showing that, that gives agencies something to deal
I think
with.
the best thing to do is to try to document if you see somebody doing something that you feel is unethical or illegal, then we can look at that and try to take it to the right agency. For instance, when we had the whatever pop-up wedding thing that parked right in front of the Marriage Commission, we were able to contact business licensing, and they came out, and they haven't been back because they didn't have a license to conduct marriage ceremonies right in front of the county clerk's marriage bureau. So I think that was the kind of thing that we would like to be able to do, is to work with the appropriate agencies when something isn't, you know, and it can't just be what irritates you, as you know. It needs to be something that would rise to the level of concern for the appropriate agency, like business licensing.
A violation of the law.
Correct. I mean, some of this stuff we need to, I think, talk to each other and try to resolve if we can. If you know what chapels they are, you know, then maybe we have direct conversations between those chapels and just come to an agreement, hopefully. Again, I would be happy to facilitate something like that. What we need to realize is that these kinds of things reflect badly on all of us. And we are losing market share. We continue to lose market share. And if we want to regain market share and keep our standing in the industry as the most popular global destination for wedding tourism, we need to address some of these internal issues that might be impacting it. So that's, you know, if you would like to, maybe we conduct a meeting just with the chapels that do handbillers. That would be something that we would be willing to facilitate and see if we can come up with an agreement. Does that make sense? Because I do not have the authority to force anyone in a business to conduct their business differently unless it's illegal. And then I still don't have the authority. I would go to the appropriate agency. So I think what's best for all of us is when we see these things that clearly cause angst in our customers, that we need to do what we need to do to resolve those issues so that we, again, can be seen as the most fun destination to have a wedding. And if it's full of angst, it's no longer fun. So that's my concern. I want to see how can we make it smooth and simple and fun and positive for the couples that are coming here. That's my goal. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention these last two topics seem to be regarding the handbillers and ministers' fees versus gratuity. You're talking about the negativity here that may be contributing to the decline in marriages. I'm not a minister, I'm not a chapel. I retrieve documents and have done so for over 20 years. I point out to all the people that I do this for the differences between ordering from us and the clerk, and there are differences. But I want everybody here to understand that there's also another problem that you may be able to help out in. Somebody is calling these newlyweds within the United States and Canada and seems to be posing, in my opinion, as the clerk's office or government agency. I won't get into names or anything, but I think it would behoove the whole industry for you folks to let these people know that Lynn Goya's office does not compile telephone numbers and certainly does not call you for the purchase of marriage certificates. In my opinion, they're walking a very fine line. They've been doing this for about 8 years. It's affected my business. I'm the end guy. I feel that I'm the closer. These people need their documents. They can order from the clerk. But we have many situations where these people need their certificates in a hurry overseas. Things have gone wrong, and this is contributing to the bad experience. It's a very, very negative thing, and I would just ask on behalf of myself and the whole industry, if you could please let your newlyweds know that you may receive a phone call. It is not from the clerk. You don't have to tell them they're a scam. I mean, just as simple as that. Thank you.
And that is on our, again, our pink sheet documentation, but again, I don't know that how carefully I think Charlotte had a comment or question. Oh. You have a cup? Did you have, who has the other microphone?
Hello, everybody. My name is Charlotte Richards. I own the Little White Wedding Chapel here in Las Vegas. I've been in the industry for 60 years. I love every moment of my life for choosing such a wonderful business. I do want to tell you that I have about 3-4 drawerfuls of your brochures, because they give the brochures out here, and then they bring them into the chapel, and so I collect them. And if you want to come over and get your certificate, your brochures back, I have a drawer full of them. This is not really a funny thing. It is very serious to me, and I just weep inside to think that a beautiful city like Las Vegas, Nevada, the marriage capital of the world, taking charge of people down at the Marriage License Bureau, handing out their brochures, and doing the things that has been done. I think it's just, it's such a shame. It is ridiculous that I really can't understand anybody that is that hungry for money, number one, with donations, and number two, or whatever you call them, that you give to minister. I don't call it a donation, but I do call it giving to the one that did your your ceremony. If you like the service, then you're welcome to give whatever you wish. But what I see people down at the Marriage License Bureau allowing, there's fights down there, there's arguments down there, there's people that have picked up my people in their limousine. And when they said, no, this is not the Little White Chapel, they said, yes, this is the Little Chapel. And people that have worked for me are sitting here in this auditorium right now, and they have been so proud of my name that they call it the White Chapel, they call it the Little Chapel. Fine, I don't care about that, because my reputation is so much more valuable. I have worked very hard to keep Las Vegas in a beautiful sanctuarial business when it comes to people being married. And I really wished that if you can't get it any other way but standing down here at the Marriage License Bureau, handing out your brochures, hoping you can do more business, and lurking them into your vehicles and encouraging them to come to your direction when they've already paid a deposit at the chapel that they're getting married at, and then they come back and they said, well, we did get married at the Little Chapel. I mean, how do you think I feel? How do you think you would feel if that happened to you? I think it's ridiculous. I hope and pray to God that things like this can be stopped. And I'm willing to help in any way. I don't want to go down there. I can't even stand to look down there and see the people that are doing what they're doing, putting their names on brochures. And naturally, the person probably gets money for doing that. But that's not my business. My business is to have a reputation for the city that I have lived here, loved here, and will die here. And I would like to see Las Vegas at every wedding chapel to know that there's plenty of people to get married. We are suffering from it, and she knows it, and I know it, because of you people that are allowing people to stand down at the Marriage bureau and hand out brochures. I can't say anything more, but I do love you, whoever you are. If there's anything I can do to help you, and yes, I have one day out of the whole year that I have free weddings. I don't charge them 1 penny. I give them their flowers, their bridal bouquet. I let them have anything they want. The only thing I ask is if they would like to take care of the minister that will perform their ceremony. But I tell them up front. I don't wait till they get to the business. They know this all up front. So I love you. I love the marriage business. I love my precious lady right here. And I just pray that every one of us can be honest in heart. These people are important. They are brought here from around the world. They come here because the marriage capital of the world is Las Vegas. And why are you ruining the reputation of a beautiful city that does what they do? And that's beautiful weddings, right? Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, first of all, having us here, and thank you for everybody who attend. Thank you for this nice word, Mr. Reed. And I wanted to ask, the last 4 years, I'm asking all the time about the marriage certificates. Do we have any update for the recording, for this software? Every year they say that they're going to do something, and nothing it moves up for this.
It's all
We
funding.
move up for
I
money, you know.
I don't have a tech fee that can support it yet. When we get some money that I can use towards that, that will be one of the things that we're trying to do, but I do not have the funding right now.
Thank you.
So it's on our list. It's on our wish list. Yeah, but I don't have the funding.
Is that for recording purposes?
Yeah, we don't have the funding for that right now. Do we have a comment right down here?
Are copies of the agenda available?
This will be the PowerPoint and the videotape of this event will be available online at the beginning of next week.
And I have a one-on-one question for the gentleman over there after the meeting.
Sure, you can. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate your time and energy. I look forward to working with you. Thank you very much for coming.